This is Pace the Nation.
When you climb up that hill, well, eventually you'll come down. If the wind's at your back, you never wear a frown. You're waiting on that second wind to begin to kick in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Pace the Nation, broadcasting back here at Studio 1A in downtown Arlington, Virginia. We are back in the heart of all things. Of course, that is Clarendon, back for episode number 273. I'm your host, Chris Farley. I am flying solo today. Unfortunately, my co-host wife, Julie Culley, she is busy with her actual real job, and she's actually putting on this very big track meet, and she's got a ton of work for it. Big track meet is Brooks PR coming up here in the middle of June, and it's relevant to today's show, and we'll get into that. But first, before we get into that, it takes a village to kind of make these things happen. I got behind the scenes, we got Stoner working with me. The great folks over at Rep the District, they're helping me out. I got friends and family members booking guests, and today I'm really excited about the guests that we've booked. Props, and thank yous for helping make these guests possible. Let me give you the props and the thank yous before we get into who the actual guests are. I want to say thanks to Alton McKenzie and Paul Whittaker. They were teammates at Georgetown back in the early 90s. And they helped secure one of my guests. And Alton is the director of track and field at Georgetown. Also, thanks to a good buddy of mine, Tim Fahey, and his son, Brendan Fahey. They helped me with some questions for my other guests. They are in Pennsylvania, and Brendan goes to Archbishop Wood High School with one of my guests for today. Also, the person who really made all this happen, put all this together, is Julie, who isn't here. But thanks, Julie, for connecting all the dots. So it is a high school theme today. Julie is putting on this Brooks PR meet. Both of these kids will be running at Brooks PR. We've got two exciting guests, two of the hottest runners in all of high school running right now. Today on Pace the Nation, joining us will be Gary Martin, who is a sub 4-minute miler. He just ran 3:57 in the mile, and he runs for Archbishop Wood High School. And the other guest, her dad went to Georgetown, friend of the family, is Alton McKenzie, the director of track and field and cross country at Georgetown. Our guest today is Juliette Whitaker, one of the star runners in all of the country. She just broke the 2-minute barrier in the 800. She goes to Mount D Sales High School, and really incredible how fast some of these kids are running, especially our two guests today. So I'm going to try something different, a little bit unique today. I'm going to bring them both in initially, and we're going to talk to them for a second, but I got to give both of them equal time. So I want to give them equal time to tell their stories to the Pace the Nation audience. So we'll give Gary 20 minutes and then give Juliette 20 minutes, and then we'll bring them back together. And you know what? Maybe I'll quiz them. It's high school. It's finals time. Do they even have finals in high school? I don't know. But we'll quiz them at the end. I'll ask them questions about each other, what they learned about each other during the interview. So with that, really excited to have two of the top runners in the country right now. They're high school athletes. Gary Martin, Juliette Whitaker join us next here on Pace the Nation.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and D.C. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program. And now I am very excited to be joined via the StreamYard. I see them both on my screens. I've got Gary Martin. He is of Archbishop Wood High School, and Juliette Whitaker of, is it Mount de Souls? What's is that your high
Mount
school, Juliette?
Mountain to Sales.
Mount de Sales High School. High school athletes, they're running like professionals, but I got them both here together. Gary just broke 4 minutes in the mile running, 3:57. Juliette just broke 2 minutes in the 800, running 1:59. Juliette, Gary, welcome to Pace the Nation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Awesome to have you guys both. This is what we're going to do. I got to give equal time. You guys both have amazing stories. So I'm going to have Gary start, and I'm going to have Juliette exit, and we're going to have 20 minutes with Gary Martin, fourth fastest outdoor miler ever, fifth all time because somebody had a little faster indoors. And then we're going to have Juliette Whitaker, second fastest 800-meter runner ever. I'm going to spend 20 minutes with Gary. I'm going to spend 20 minutes individually with Juliette, and then we're going to bring you back together. Okay, guys? And I know it's almost June. It's finals time in high school, and there's going to be a test. So I want you guys both to pay attention to your interviews. And Juliette's going to answer something about Gary, and Gary's going to answer something about Juliette. Do you guys understand the assignment?
Yes.
All right. Awesome. All right, Juliette, we're going to have you pop off, and I'm going to start with you, Gary. Gary, so great.
We do.
So great to have you, man. I said this before. I got to give props to Julie Culley, my wife, who is the race director at Brooks PR. You're running Brooks PR again, so thank you for that. Also, big props to my buddy Tim Fahey and Brendan Fahey, who is a teammate of yours and idolizes Gary Martin. Do you run with my buddy Tim's son Brendan?
I don't think I have too much because we're distance is sometimes a little separate, and we had like our distance group's a little off from the sprinters.
Yeah,
sometimes.
well, you guys are on the same team, and not many people can run with you right now, which is pretty amazing. You do a lot of your stuff, I imagine, by yourself at this point.
Yeah, it's a mix. I mean, I'll do some easy running with the teams, but a lot of the workouts are on my own. I mean, I practice with the team. We do similar workouts, like maybe they'll do 8x200. I'll do 12x200 or something like that. Like it'll be modified, but it's definitely a lot of pacing myself and running on my own in practice, which I think helps build some of the mental toughness for races.
All right, I want to talk about this 3:57 mile, incredible. But a little bit before we do that, you weren't necessarily this wasn't always your thing running. Like you really started seriously running 2.5 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. I used to be baseball, soccer, basketball. I wasn't a real runner. I just kind of played those sports for fun, and I never really took track that seriously.
And you're a big basketball fan, 76ers Mark, big 76ers fan. Did you envision yourself as more of a basketball player growing up and didn't even think about running?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever saw myself as too much of an athlete moving forward. I mean, I was always okay at basketball, soccer, baseball, but I was never great. So I never saw myself playing, and even in high school, nevertheless college. So I think I just was kind of gonna play those sports through high school and like intramural or travel teams for fun, and never take it that seriously. And up until freshman year, I never really gave running too much of a thought.
And I listened to you on the Citius Mag podcast. Chris did a great job with you, as he always does. It's one of my favorite shows. So thanks for helping me prep Chris Chavez for this interview. I know you started getting calls from schools, earlier, probably in cross country, maybe your junior year. When did you realize like this is going to be my thing? I'm going to be a runner in college, and I want to talk about the school you're going to.
Yeah, I think the first time I really had that realization that I wanted to run in college and that it was a realistic goal was my sophomore year, because at the end of my freshman year, I had some success. Like I ran 206 in the 800 and 54 in the 400. And I remember sitting with my dad and looking at recruiting standards for schools and thinking that if I improved a lot by the end of senior year, maybe I could go to a low level D1, or maybe
Mhm.
like get money from a D2 school or something. So that was kind of like where the wheels started turning. But then sophomore year was when I kind of had my breakout, and I realized that I had more talent than I thought, and if I kept working hard, I could really take the sport somewhere and run for schools that were better than I thought I could ever run for, and really make something out of it.
And you had you started running really well your junior and senior year, so it was evident you were going to go to a big time school. I went to Virginia. I ran for Virginia. Dude, we've got a text string with all my buddies from Virginia who are so excited to see Gary Martin running for the orange and blue of the Wahoos next year. What was it about Virginia that said this is the place for me? I mean, I know, but just tell our audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of things. It's funny because Vin Lanana, the coach, head coach of Virginia, he's been there for a few years now, and I think he's the first thing people think of when they think Virginia track and field, because he's made a name for himself in the sport. He's the president of USA Track and Field. He's coached at Oregon, Stanford, Dartmouth, and he's won a lot. He knows how to win. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I mean, I have a lot of faith in him as a coach. I trust his training. It's very similar to what I'm doing now. I
Mhm.
like Coach Dunbar is a fantastic coach. I'm excited to run under him. But what really sold me was just visiting the school, meeting the kids on the team, seeing what kind of culture I'd be in for 4 years, and figuring out like, hey, like this is the group of people I want to be around. I really see myself fitting in, and I think I can succeed here. As well as the schools, just it was a fantastic academically. It was great. I loved the campus, and I just saw myself living there and being happy.
I'm going to tell Juliette this too. And Charlottesville's amazing, and where she's going is amazing as well. Man, enjoy that experience. I look back on it 20 plus years later, running with the team, being there in Charlottesville was the best years of my life. Sorry to my wife, but it was really like it was some of the best years of my life. And whether you're there running for 4 years, 2 years, whatever it is, man, soak it in.
I will. I'm super excited. It's gonna be a brand new experience, and it's gonna be super fun for me. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, but when Coach Finn recruited you, you were great. Don't get me wrong, but you weren't 357 great. I mean, that's insane. So
Yeah.
you ran a 357. Again, that's the fifth fastest ever, fourth fastest outdoor time that anybody has ever run in the U.S. Um, and it was in an all high school meet, which was the fastest time that anybody's ever run in an all high school meet. Solo, like 357. I mean, not only did you break four, you blew the doors off. Tell me a little bit about that race and like what was that experience like? How excited are you to be a 357 miler?
I mean, I think it's obvious. I don't think anyone's surprised me when I say this, but it's super exciting. It's still kind of surreal. It's one of those things where I'm I'm running races leading up to it, and I'm having great workouts and training, and I'm confident that I'm in shape to do it and to break 4. But it's a completely different feeling actually going out there and getting that time and hearing them announce 3:57:98 after the race, and realizing you've done it versus thinking you could do it before the race.
Yeah. And you did it. And what just struck me about the race is that again, all high school meet, it was like it wasn't what I remember watching Alan Webb run 353 live at Prefontaine, at a big meet. This was a small meet. I mean, relatively small. It wasn't a small meet, but it wasn't a professional meet. And you ran 2 races afterwards. I mean, it just blows my mind. What the mile I assume was first. Did you think, wow, it's not going to get better than this? Maybe I blow off the 800 and the 400, but you ran those, right? I mean, what was your thought process after finishing and running 357?
I think it was just like I mentioned this a bit before in other interviews, but part of it was that I wanted to score points for my team because it was our league championship. So we're trying to place as high in the team standings as possible. And we have a good team this year. We have a lot of talent across the board. So it was
Mhm.
kind of trying to take advantage of having multiple guys on the team who can score, and also just going out and proving that I can still come back and run an 800 because I think I was more nervous going into the 800 than I was the mile because the mile I felt confident I was gonna win it, to be honest. Like there wasn't the time gap going in was I know that I don't mean to sound cocky, but going into it, like I looking at the guys in the league and the time gap, like I thought I could, based on how I felt, I thought I was gonna run a really fast time and be able to win. And there wasn't really any pressure. Like I didn't tell anyone I was gonna go for sub 4, so I didn't feel the pressure to do that. Like if I ran 4:02, I don't think anyone except myself would have really known or been disappointed. And then, but going into the 800, I knew it was going to be a good battle because Quinn Worrell from St. Joe's Prep had just run
Mhm.
152 on a 4x8 split earlier in the meet, and he's a fantastic runner. So I was excited for the battle against him. I didn't want to miss it. That's why I came back in the 800. But I was also definitely more nervous because I knew I was going to have to pull out a really good race again.
Well, you did, and then you ran a 400 as well, which is insane. What was your
Yes,
400 time?
it was 49-1, and that was the most disappointing race of the day because we lost by 2/1000th of a second. It was a photo finish at the finish line. It was a great race. It was awesome, and it pushed me to run the fastest 4x4 split of my life. But I was definitely a little disappointed losing that close of a race.
All right, amazing, amazing. I can't believe you're disappointed after you ran the fourth fastest outdoor time ever, but that's fine. I, and another thing, and I got to give Sidious props to this. I don't think Chris dove in this with you, but did you play basketball after this race?
I did. So the full story is we have every year my school does we're the Archbishop Wood Vikings, so they have Viking Thon, which is based off of Penn State's Thon, which is
Mhm.
a fundraiser for childhood cancer. So it's like you can't it's like 10 hours straight of you're not allowed to sit down and you're raising money for kids with childhood cancer. So
Dancing.
I missed the first dancing for the most part, but by the time I got there, they were 6 hours in, so I only got to stay for the last 3 hours. And but there was a lot of basketball, knockout, 3-on-3. So I played basketball for a while, and it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, do you think Jim Ryan, after he set after he broke 4 minutes do you think he went and played hoops for a couple hours after his race? I mean, do you think Alan Webb, after he ran 3:53 at Prefontaine, said, "Hey, where's the nearest hoops court here in Eugene?" Do you think that happened?
I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask them. I mean, they both. You never know. I'm sure they have their own crazy stories.
That's absolutely true. So speaking of crazy stories, how crazy has it been? I mean, you're running times like a professional right now, right? How crazy has it been? Do your high school friends get it? Are you doing regular high school things? Are you going to prom and, like going to beach? You're not going to beach week, I assume. Like, how crazy has it been as you wind down a really important part of your life, high school, and then you're on fire in this direction with your running? Is that a conflict? Have they meshed well together? How's it been?
A little bit. I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little crazy because the past 2 weeks have probably been the craziest of high school with events with the end of the year and stuff winding down. And then track season, we're getting into racing season. So it's like I have multiple races every week. I have multiple school events every week. So it's definitely it's hard to balance both, but I feel like I've done a pretty good job of it, and it's been fun. Like it's been a fun couple weeks, and it's been all the like the aftermath of the mile has still been setting in. It's been really exciting for me. It's different than anything I've had before. Like it's a lot more attention and credit for a race, and it's definitely very cool. So it's definitely just about balancing that with school and the end of the year.
All right. And Gary, it has been a lot of attention, and which is crazy. You're 18 years old. I'll say this from me personally, we're big into running. My wife runs sports marketing for Brooks and puts on the Brooks PR meet, was a professional runner. I was a hack runner at Virginia, not nearly as good as you, but I ran at Virginia. My son, he's about 5.5. He's almost 6. I showed him pictures of you because this is what the world is now. You can see immediately what happens in races like yours. you're up in Pennsylvania. I'm in here in Arlington, right outside DC, and I can show him the race or that what you did. And my son has glasses and curly hair. And I swear that day you ran 3:57. I've got a picture. And Chris, I'm going to have you put this picture up. My son was inspired. And so he was out like putting himself and he's 5.5. He's like putting himself in racing blocks like he's out racing. And again, I'll put up a picture here if you're doing the video feed. You are inspiring young kids, even my son. How does that feel?
It's honestly, it's crazy to me. Like it's like I know I mentioned this before, and it's all happened very fast, and it's still kind of setting in. Like I'm not like I see myself as being inspired by other people. It's hard for me to imagine that I'm inspiring other people as well, which I mean, it means the world to me. It's super cool, and I hope maybe, I mean, I know there's not a ton of runners out there with like or top runners with glasses. So hopefully it's inspiring more people to wear their glasses, and I don't know what it's inspiring, but hopefully it's making some type of difference. But it means the world. That's super cool to me.
That's really cool. So, dude, did you and my wife and I just talked, and I'm going to get Juliette in here in a second, but my wife and I were just talking about our son's glasses, and we were thinking about goggles or contacts. Did you ever do the goggles? Because you did other sports. You played baseball, you played basketball, you played soccer. Did you do the goggles? Because a lot of times my son, like, he's got the curly hair, it's sweating everywhere. During soccer, he'll throw off his glasses. Did you goggles or contacts ever?
I contacts because I was never good at touching my eye. I still don't like to touch my eye, so contacts were never a good option for me. But I always had the sports goggles. I got my glasses in 5th grade, and then I was very much into soccer, baseball, basketball, and I wore goggles for all of them. Even now, we had a school basketball tournament 3 weeks ago, and I threw the goggles on because I was like, I don't want to risk breaking my glasses.
I'm gonna get Juliette in here, but I just can't wait for what Trevor and Ven think of. Coaches Trevor, Coach Ven think of you running or playing basketball after some of your meets at Virginia. I think, Gary, your basketball days might be numbered.
Yeah, that's okay. I expected it. I haven't played basketball much in the past few years either while I've been running. It's just been a couple school tournaments and stuff for fundraisers, and I've hopped in and it's been fun. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're numbered as well.
Yeah, yeah, which is okay. You got a lot of other athletic pursuits.
I don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. All right, one last thing before I get you out of here, and we'll get you back in. Coach Paul, what has he meant for you, to you? You're kind of athlete who could say, all right, I'm going to have my own coach. I'm going to find a coach. Coach Paul, what has he meant for you for your 4 years there at Archbishop Wood?
He's meant the world for me, and I think it's besides just being a good coach and really clicking with me training wise, he's someone who I know always has my best interest in mind, and he's gone to bat for me always. I mean, getting me into meets and just looking out for me and traveling constantly, and he does a lot of little things that I feel like he doesn't have to do. Like, it's not his responsibility as a coach to do some of these little things, but it's more so just because he cares about me as a person as well as an athlete, and he's really always looking out for me and has my best interest in mind. So I couldn't ask for a better coach.
Yeah, well, he's a great coach. He's a great X's and O's coach too. He's obviously got you to pretty the highest of heights here. So congrats to him too. All right, Gary, I'm going to have you slide off into the background. You're going to listen to Juliette, one of the best athletes in the country right now. Both of you guys are, but in the 800, we're gonna have Gary exit, and we're gonna bring in Juliette Whitaker. So Chris, if you could bring in Juliette Whitaker joins us, and you're still here. Did you listen to the interview with Gary that we just did?
Yes, I was making sure I was listening.
Taking notes. Awesome. All right. So we got Juliette Whitaker. I said this before you came on. Big props to your dad for hooking us up and making sure that we got this interview. And I talked to the director of track and field at Georgetown, Alton McKenzie. Got some background on you. He's a family friend. So thanks to Paul Whitaker and Alton McKenzie for helping me out with this interview. So Juliette, we're going to talk about your sub two. You've had amazing success all throughout your high school career, but growing up, did you know, your mom and your dad both ran at Georgetown. did you know what kind of athletes they were? Did you know that they were, star athletes in their own right as you were growing up?
Not really. I feel like they told me a lot, but I kinda just, like, pushed it aside. I was like, "Eh, whatever." Like, I was pretty I was pretty focused on swimming, and honestly, I just, like, did not understand the running world at all, and just really did not think about it much.
So your dad was he ran for the Hoyas. He and your mom did as well. Your mom shorter distance, your dad 800-meter runner. He was a 147 athlete at Georgetown, and which is incredibly fast, especially back. I think he was in the early 90s, but he had two guys in front of him that were even better than he was. So it's pretty amazing that he had Rich Kana, Brian Woodward, and Paul Whitaker all on the same 4x8 team. Unbelievable. So I just got to give him some props because, he was an amazing runner in his own right. And I know he's coaching you now. Um, what was the decision like for you decided to have your dad coach you, right? Like, what was that decision like? And has he coached you all 4 years in high school?
Yeah, so basically freshman year, I just like ran with the team under like the high school coach. Um, and then like pretty much sophomore year when I had qualified for Foot Locker, all the other girls had started indoor track, so my high school coach was kind of focusing on that, but I was still training for cross country. So then my dad just started giving me workouts, and we just saw that it started to work. And then eventually my dad started coaching for my school too. So he coaches the other sprinters and me. So then it kind of just, yeah, kind of just came from there. And he's been coaching me since.
All right. And I want to stick on your family here. So you're going to Stanford, super exciting, but you're one of four. You're the baby of the family. First one not to go to an Ivy. How tough of a decision was that? Because your siblings went to Harvard, Yale, and Penn.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the first one. But I wasn't really, looking at colleges, I was never like, oh, like it has to be Ivy League. I looked at a few, and I definitely, wanted a school with great academics, but I just didn't think that it had to be an Ivy League school. So, I obviously ended up settling with Stanford,
Settling's not the
which
right
still
word.
has great academics.
Right.
Yes,
They
that's
have
true. Not settling.
amazing academics, amazing program. You're going to be running for JJ Clark. How excited are you to run for JJ?
So excited. He's obviously had so much success in the 800 specifically, which was really perfect for me. And I'm just really excited to see, what I can do under his training and with the team.
Awesome. Well, your siblings were also runners. Well, I think two of your siblings ran in college, correct?
Yes, yeah. My one brother who went to Yale, he walked on and ran there, and then Bella runs at Penn.
And Bella runs at Penn, and she's a great runner in her own right. But you mentioned earlier, running wasn't always it. You grew up as a swimmer?
Yeah, yeah. I started swimming when I was about 7 years old, I think, and swam up until high school when I ultimately just kind of made the decision to make the switch. I loved swimming at first, but by the end, I was mainly just sticking around just because I liked the girls on the team, not really because I liked running or swimming.
Right.
So yeah, so I ultimately just kind of changed. Couldn't do both sports in high school, so had to just stop the one and begin running.
Well, this is probably Alton recreating history, but he said, "Listen, I went in to see Paul, and I went into the living room. This is Alton McKenzie, the director of track and field, and I said, Juliette, you got to start running. Enough of this swimming business for you." Do you remember a conversation like that?
I remember them coming, over, and I feel like I remember us talking about it, but again, like, when I was swimming, like, pretty much swimming was just, like, my whole world, so when people would say, "Maybe try you running," or something like that, I really just, like, pushed it aside because I was like, "Running? Like, why would I run? I'm swimming."
Well, swimming ultimately did help you, with your running, obviously, because you had a stress fracture earlier this year. You did a lot of swimming. How tough was that? And you obviously recovered. How long were you off, and how much swimming did you have to do during that time?
Yeah, so I think I was out for, I wanna say about 4 weeks to 6 weeks, I can't quite remember, but yeah, it was definitely really hard. It was right at the beginning of indoor season, and I had a bunch of meets like kind of lined up. And it was just so hard to like end up having to, pull out of them. And I had such big goals that I wanted to like reach. And so it was really hard because I kind of felt like, I couldn't really do anything. Like I just felt very stuck. But definitely swimming was such a big help, because I obviously was still able to get in really great workouts. So I wasn't really having to lose any fitness. And it honestly just like gave me a good time to just kind of regroup and like refresh my goals and just kind of just take a break, which I think I really needed.
How long did you take off from total running during that time?
I think it was about 4 weeks.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Wow, that says a lot that you can get a lot of stuff done, because you've had a great season. You ran, so your outdoor season. Did you open at Penn? Was that your opener, or did you race before that?
Um, why am I not remembering? I did high school like just league meets,
Mhm.
but wasn't really like kind of just using them as workouts. And then I did do one like small invitational in Maryland where I ran the 2 mile and the mile leg in a DMR.
So you ran very well at Penn, 4:41, 2:01. That doesn't necessarily say you're ready to break two, but how did you feel? Did you feel like, all right, I'm back after Penn? Did you feel really confident about your season?
Yeah, I think I felt pretty confident. I think I definitely was a bit bummed at first, when I saw that I ran 2:01 just 'cause, I was thinking I was maybe in better shape than that, and just, like, having run 2:01 a good amount of times before that, I was kind of ready to, get under that mark. But I think honestly that just boosted my confidence 'cause, running that 2:01 the day after running the mile, I think just really excited me for what I could do on fresh legs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard in another podcast. I got to give again props to Sidious Mag that you had on your mirror. I'm looking in your background. I don't see the mirror there. It said sub two and national record. So, I mean, you were gunning for this sub two and national record. Did you think it was going to come together when it did in New York?
Yeah, so I'd written that, on my bathroom mirror actually, and yeah, I kinda was just like, "You know what, why not just, like, put it up on the wall,
Yeah,
just as,
put it
like, a
out there.
constant." Yeah, yeah, exactly, and the main thing, I wrote "sub 2" really big and then just, like, in small letters underneath "national record" because I definitely, that would've been great to get it, but it also wasn't, like, the main goal, and I honestly didn't even know what the time was. I knew it was 1:59 something, so, I was just kinda going for that, and I think I really just, like, going into that New York meet, I just felt really confident in my training at the time, and I think I just, like, went into the race more confident than I had ever gone into a race before. Usually, I'm pretty, like, timid or kinda scared to, like, set bigger goals, but I think just going into it, I just like really wanted this goal.
All right. And I talked to Gary a little bit about some of the day of different experience. He played basketball after he ran 3:57. You guys, it what really struck me listening to you describe your on another podcast, your sub two, like you're going through like regular stuff, like high school stuff. Like you were late to the Icon Stadium. Like you guys were trying to get to New York and you're like running late to Icon Stadium thinking, I might miss the race like any high schooler would. Like how nerve-wracking was it for you? Your dad must have been like going nuts, road raging on his way to New York.
Yeah, we were both pretty stressed. I mean, usually like it would have only took like 3.5 hours. We left at like 1:30, so we were thinking like we'd be there around 5, like plenty of time.
Sure.
But there was just a ton of traffic, and we didn't end up getting there until like 7:20. And originally, yeah, originally the race was supposed to be at 7:55, so I was really freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no way I'm gonna have time to warm up or literally anything. But thankfully, because of the storms, they delayed the races. So it ended up getting pushed back to 8:20. So I at least had an hour. And so that kind of calmed my nerves a bit. I tried to, not stress myself out, not waste like energy on things that I couldn't really control.
That's great. And so, I mean, you're just going through regular, and I just think of you guys running pro times, but these are regular things that are happening to high school students, which is just amazing. So you come back to school. You're at an all girls school there in Maryland on the probably the next Monday after the race. Do your friends realize? Are your friends runners? Do they understand what 1:59 is? You've run the second fastest high school time ever. Do they have context? Were they like, was there like a big parade for you when you got back?
Yeah, I definitely felt just a ton of support, even a lot of my friends who aren't runners, like, they were congratulating me and, like, when I'd be, like, standing there, like, talking with a few other girls and, like, if one of them didn't know what I did, like, another one would, like, describe the whole race to her, like, even though she had no idea, like, about any running, but she, like, word for word was, like, saying, like, what I said in my interview and, like, all this stuff, which, just made me feel, so supported and loved, but, some of them were still kinda confused. I got a few texts that were like, "Congrats on the record," and I was like, "Oh, like, didn't really
Kind
get a
of.
record,"
Yeah. I
but
mean, it's half of my mirror has been taken care of, not the full mirror. So,
exactly.
so they're half right. So you're done competing in the high
Yes.
school uniform, which is exciting. So congratulations. Yeah, but for our audience, you don't have like a beach week scheduled. Wait, let me ask you this: are you going to prom? Is there a prom at all? How's it working at all girls high school? You going to prom? Do you have an end of the year celebration for high school?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we had prom, a few weeks ago, but it was the same weekend as Penn relays, and, like, my race was, like, the same exact time on the Friday night, so I unfortunately missed it, which I was pretty bummed about, but, I was still really excited to race at Penn. But we do have, like, a few, events this week. We've actually been out of school for a while, but we've been, like, having graduation practice, and, like, today we have baccalaureate mass, and then Saturday's graduation, so
All right, so you're getting ready for college, but you got a lot to do before you become become part of the Stanford Cardinal team. Last year was the Olympic trials. You made the semis of the Olympic trials in the senior division of the Olympic trials. Just for our audience to understand, you were competing with the best senior runners in the country, and almost how close were you to making the final of the Olympic trials?
I was the first spot not to make it, so about, like, 0.09 away from making
So essentially,
it.
that means you were the ninth. So there's eight who made it. So you were the ninth fastest runner in the country, senior division, which is just incredible. This year is a world championship year, and it's back in Eugene. The trials are in Eugene. The world champs is in Eugene. What's your decision? Are you going to run worlds? You going to run U20? What do you think? Or I should say, are
Yeah,
you going to attempt to try to qualify for worlds or run, try to qualify for U20 worlds?
yeah, as of now, pretty set on doing
Great.
U20s. I just honestly think, for one, I feel like I have, a better shot doing U20s and qualifying for Worlds. But I also just really wanted that experience, and I feel like I got, the kind of like senior experience last year running at the trials, but I also like, still want to enjoy the other like meets that I can go to now that I'm still like pretty young. So I think U20s would just be a great experience, and I know a few friends who are trying to do it too, so it'll be fun.
That's awesome. And for our audience, U20 it's U20 worlds, right? So you'll be competing against other under 20 athletes from all over the world. And will it be in Eugene as well?
No, Worlds is actually in Colombia, South America.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Have you traveled outside the country to race before?
No, not to race,
Oh,
no.
that's awesome. All right. Well, I mean, everything's got to go right. You still got to make the team, but that sounds like it would be an amazing experience.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna
Yes,
we're
for
gonna
sure.
bring Gary back in a second here, but I did hear that you listen to podcasts when because you do a lot of running solo as you and Gary are kind of top athletes on your team. You listen to podcasts on your runs. What podcasts? I mean, Sidious Mag, we love Chris, love those guys. You're gonna have to start listening to Pace the Nation. So I'm not asking if you listen to Pace the Nation, but what podcast do you listen to when you're on your run? Give me some recommendations because I listen to podcasts too.
Yeah, I mean, I love listening to, obviously Citius Mag, and also, Allie on the Run. Love Allie on the
Yep.
Run. Listen to her a lot. And also See Totally
Yep.
Run, and trying to think
Well,
of
you're
some
running
more.
podcasts. You are into running podcasts. Wow.
Yes,
That's
yes.
awesome. And I agree. I think podcasts are perfect because they aren't, music gets you too high or too low. So I like it just nice and medium when you're listening to a podcast. So all right, we'll throw Pace the Nation in the mix on your next run. So we'll get you. We'll get you. And I know, don't listen for me. Listen to Julie. Julie's known you forever, so you'll have to listen to Julie. She's the star of the show. Sorry she couldn't be here today. All right, Chris, let's bring Gary back in. I want to address a couple things with both you guys. Gary, great to see you. Glad that you stayed with us throughout. I'm impressed.
Of course.
You follow directions. Both you guys are awesome. All right. So a couple quick ones for both you guys. You both seem very happy for your competitors. I think that's awesome. I mean, you're ultra competitive, but very happy for your competitors as well. Gary, I'll start with you. Why is that important?
I think it's one of those things where when you step out on the track, you have to be ultra competitive and cutthroat, and you wanna race as fast as you can and win, but you have to be able to recognize that the faster your competitors run, the better it is for the sport, and the better everyone else will run. So if you're being pushed by the people around you, then you're only going to run faster. And I think especially it's important to recognize that all your competitors are just like you. They're working hard, and they're putting in the miles and the hard workouts, and they deserve a lot of credit because, like I said, they're the ones who are going to push you. So you need to. It's not obviously, like I said, you want to be ultra competitive when you're out on the track, but it's good to have those people who you're friends with and keep your competitors close and really
Yeah.
push
And
push them to
Juliette,
be better.
you do that, Juliette. You got a text string with some of the fastest girl runners in the country. Why is it important to keep a good relationship with these runners?
Yeah, I think, I agree with Gary. I think it's really just, we all kind of share in this like enjoyment of the sport, and also we just know how much each other works, because we know how much like we work ourselves. So I feel like just seeing each other, excel just like makes us so happy because we know how much they wanted this. And so yeah, that's definitely, how me, Roisin, and Sophia really feel. We just, really like are overjoyed when each other like succeeds, and it also just helps us get better because when we see each other chasing these barriers and times, it just really inspires and motivates us to kind of reach those goals too.
And I'm going to stick with you, Juliette. It's ridiculous what you high schoolers are running now. I mean, it's like a rising tide, maybe rising all the boats. You made the semis of the Olympic trials last year. I mean, you're running with some of the fastest runners in the world. Oh, how is this possible? Why is this happening now in high school running?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just really starts with like one person, when one person just really like succeeds, it just inspires so many other people to really get there too. Like whether, you're in the same race or not, or even like the same event group. Like I know, when I saw Gary go sub 4, like even though obviously I'm not running a sub 4 mile, like it just really, inspires me to also kind of break those barriers. And so I feel like it's kind of just become, just like a domino effect really of just all of us, in high school just really, reaching those goals.
All right. I do want to address, and I know Chris addressed it with both you guys on his podcast, on the Citius Mag podcast. Gary, we'll start with you. Fast Woman tweeted, y'all better make a huge deal about, and we love Allison from Fast Woman. Y'all better make a huge deal about high school senior Juliette Whitaker running 159.8 and 800. This is bigger than high school boys running sub 4 minutes, given that 14 have done it while only 2 U.S. girls have broken 2. How did that make you feel, Gary? I mean, it was like it was celebrating Juliette, but then kind of talking about you. How did you feel? And tell the audience about your response.
I mean, I didn't think much of it. Like I didn't even bring myself into the picture. Like I thought it was more of just like it's the truth. Like when you look at what Juliette's doing, there's been 2 girls in US history who have done it, and it's incredible. And I think the tweet is right that it should be getting as much attention because I feel like you haven't seen as much as you should have based on the magnitude of the company she's in and what she's doing. And I think part of it is the fact that when you look at the distances, I guess the mile is a more recognizable distance, and the 4 minute barrier is kind of, it's been historically the barrier for what's considered like that top
Mhm.
level in the high school mile. But we've seen more and more people break it, and it's obviously it's still an incredible barrier, but the the 2 minute and the 800 has kind of remained this the big barrier that not a lot that well, I say not a lot, only two people have broken now.
Right, right.
So I think the more coverage it gets, the better it is for the sport, because I think we need to give other distances more respect and more coverage, and especially women's sports and track and field, and really the more coverage it gets, the better it is for the sport, and the more people start to recognize the significance of other distances.
Great answer, man. Great answer. And this is what he said on Twitter. And I'm not sure you're on Twitter, Juliette, so I'm going to pass it back to you. He said, I didn't feel like Fast Woman was belittling me at all. You're 100% right on Juliette. She deserves a lot of credit. Statistically, it's harder to break the 4 minute, harder barrier to crack than the 4 minute mile. So breaking 2 minutes is harder than 4 minutes. Did you see his response, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not on Twitter, but my mom was showing me the whole thread and Gary's response. And honestly, I just really appreciated that a ton, because yeah, like I would never, belittle Gary's accomplishment at all, because 357 is absolutely insane and incredible. But I also really appreciated that he kind of used that to kind of shed some more light to the 2 minute barrier and just like women's sports in general.
That's awesome. Great answer from you too. And I agree. Like, let's support each other. Let's lift each other up. All right, a couple of we're going to get you guys out of here soon. I really appreciate your time. Just a couple more that kind of relate to both of you guys. I'm going to start with you, Juliette. Again, running during COVID. Your guys' high school experience was different than my high school experience or anybody's high school experience over the last, however long, 100 years, whatever it is. Positive? Did you take positives out of it? Negatives? I mean, I guess you're not going to school, so maybe you can run more. Like, how did you feel about the year that you were running, running, not racing, training? It was just a bizarre year. How did that affect you? But you obviously came out on the other end doing awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely hard, especially just I definitely lacked a lot of motivation in the beginning, just because, I had no races on the calendar to kind of work towards. So I kind of just felt like I was, going out on the run and working hard towards, a goal that I wasn't really sure of. So it was just a lot of uncertainty, but it also, helped me a ton, just kind of strengthen like the mental aspect of my
Mhm.
running, and also just kind of, figuring out why I got started in this sport and like why I love it. So just kind of growing deeper in the sport, when I wasn't kind of distracted by, fast times and medals and things like that. So I think it just definitely helped me just kind of step back. And it was also just like a constant in my life that I could, go to when, the whole world was changing so much. I could always count on just stepping out of the door, kind of forgetting everything and just going out for a run.
Awesome. And Gary, same question to you. How did COVID positively or negatively affect you and your running?
Well, I really like what Juliette just said too about it being the constant in your life, because I felt the same way where everything else was changing, things were getting canceled, but going out, like stepping out the door and going for a run every day was the one thing you can kind of count on. And I think it definitely made me a lot stronger as a runner, because it taught me discipline. I mean, I've talked about this before, but that was my first serious summer of like a lot of training. So it took a lot of mental strength to stay focused and really put the miles in when I didn't have anything to train for. And I think it just made me better and stronger in the long run, because now maybe when things aren't going the best, or when there's no races coming up on the schedule and maybe I'm lacking motivation, I kind of have had experience with that when I had months of it through COVID, and I was able to stay disciplined and work hard. And I kind of know what I have to do now, and I've established the good habits that carry on.
That's great. I agree. Um, Questions for you, kind of big picture for both you guys. You guys are obviously in it. You're running as fast or faster than high schoolers ever have. Do you guys think about, and I'm gonna start with you, Juliette, again. I'm starting with you a lot here. Do you guys think about, because I think the answer is yes here. You think about the Olympics coming up in 2024. You're 18 years old. Is that a realistic goal, or is 2028, when it's back here in the US, is that more realistic for you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you never know. I don't want to completely just kind of not think about it in 2024, thinking that I couldn't reach it. I feel like, if I keep, improving at this rate, and, really just, especially after having, last year's experience at the trials, and just kind of using that forward, 2024 could be a goal, but I also, obviously won't stress about it too much.
Yeah. And Gary, how about you? 2024, 2028. I know you're thinking Olympics because that's the level you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Juliette said again because it's one of those things where you don't want to rule it out because obviously as a runner, that's the peak. Like you want to go to the Olympics, you're training to try to make the Olympics, like that's the dream. But you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and you don't want to get so focused on making the Olympics that you're like forgetting about the little things and you're not focusing on racing in the present day in the current moment. So I think I definitely keep it in the back of my mind and I would love to go to the trials and see what happens in 2024. But really it's just more about enjoying where I'm at right now, keep training, keep getting better and keep improving. And if I get there, I get there. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah, I like it. I think the less pressure you put on yourself, the better you'll perform. I totally agree. Um, Gary, a couple quick more before we get you guys out of here. We've had some really stars. I'm going to ask you the same question, Juliette. We've had some stars on this podcast. I've been blessed to have a lot of really good milers on this podcast. Matthew Sensuitz, Cooper Tier, Matt Sensuitz, Reinhard Harrison, Drew Hunter. You have a faster mile time from high school than all of those runners. That's crazy. Like, is it crazy to you still, or are you just like, nah, this is normal. I got this.
No, it's very crazy. I mean, I think it's still setting in because it's one of those things where I look at these guys as they're like huge figures for me in the sport. They're guys who I look up to and guys who I've been inspired by. So I mean, I don't see myself in that company at all. I think I have a lot left to prove, and I think it makes sense that I'm not in that company yet. But it's crazy to me that I'm in terms of high school running that I'm up there with those guys. So it means a lot, and it's definitely still setting in, and I think it'll take some time to really. It's usually my thing with running is when I'm in the present day, I usually don't realize the significance of it, but I like to look back maybe a few months later at a race and realize like, wow, like that was an awesome race. So I think it'll be the same way when I look back and realize what I did in high school.
All right, just real quick follow up. We've had Alan Webb on the show. You haven't gotten his time yet. Is that something in the back of your mind you're thinking maybe?
It's the same thing with the Olympics question. I mean, I have a lot of confidence in myself, and I think I have a lot left in the legs this year where I can run a faster time. But I'm not stressing over it. I'm not gonna set my laser focus on that goal and block everything else out. But I'm just gonna keep training. I think I'll have a couple good opportunities where maybe I can get in a really fast mile race and see what I can do. And I would obviously it'd be amazing. It'd be incredible to get that record. But we're just gonna keep getting better and racing.
All right, Juliette. We've had similar. I mean, we've had stars of the sport: Molly Huddle, Kate Murphy. We've had Kira Diamato on the show, amongst a few of the names. You've got a better high school time than all of them. Like, is this just normal for you, or are you kind of pinching yourself, saying, "Wow"?
Yeah, no, I still feel like I'm like waiting to wake up from like a dream. Like it still feels so surreal. And same with Gary. Like I still don't feel like, I'm in that company at all yet. And yeah, I'm still inspired by them, every day.
Well, we haven't had Mary Kane on, but her record is very much in reach. You going to take another crack at that? I know you've got some miles coming up. Are you taking another crack at another 800 while you're in high school?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be running the 800 at U20, so we'll see. It's kind of just it'd be cherry on top of, the ice cream. Like it'd be such a bonus, obviously I'd love it, but I'm also just so happy with the sub too.
And side note that you cut. I don't want to say you've made it, but at Thing Mew, like she was like posting about you in her story. It was pretty. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did, and I definitely was like full on fangirling, couldn't stop. Like I was like screaming and smiling and did not feel real at all.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna get you. We've got one question for each of you because there was a test here at the end. And again, thank you so much, Juliette Whitaker, Gary Martin. I'm going to start with you, Gary.
Okay.
Juliette wrote best. She wrote down sub 2 and high school record where? Where did she write that down and looked at
On
it
her
every single day?
on the bathroom mirror.
Ding, 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 ding. All right, all right. Well done, well done. Okay, you did listen. You passed.
I did. I was listening.
Yeah. All right, Juliette. Gary, after his 357 mile, he did another 800 and another 400, but he also did this athletic endeavor. What did
Played
he do?
basketball.
There you go.
Basketball.
Wow, you guys did it. Well done. All right, you guys are gonna breeze through Stanford and UVA. You got this. No problem. All right. Well, hey, I really appreciate both of you. I cannot wait to see what the next few weeks, few months holds for you. Hey, enjoy high school. Enjoy the moment. You guys are doing amazing stuff. And thank you from Julie and from me. Thank you both for running Brooks PR. That's a big, big deal to us. I really appreciate it. I know you guys have really enjoyed the experience out there, but from Julie as the race director, my wife is a race director. She puts that on. Highlighting names, big names like you both there is a big deal. So thank you. I know you got a lot of options. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. All right. Gary Martin, Juliette Whitaker. Gary's a 357 miler. Juliette is a 159 800 meter runner. They are some of the best who've ever done it in high school. Gary, Juliette, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Great stuff. There they go. Juliette Whitaker, Gary Martin. They joined us on Pace the Nation. We're going to take a quick break and be right back after this.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program, and thanks again to our star high school runner guest today for joining us on Pace the Nation. Juliette Whitaker, 159 800 meter runner, second best ever to do it. Gary Martin, he is a 357 miler. He corrected me. He's the 4th best ever outdoors, 5th best ever to do it overall. But he's also the best ever in an all high school race. He ran 357. A few things from the interview. Just number one, just great kids, just really awesome, dynamic 18-year-olds. I mean, just really super dynamic. They were great interviews and, really humble, really cared about their competitors, about each other, just super interviews. Really great kids. A thrill to have them on. Thanks again to all the folks who helped make it possible. Another thing, they both are just, not overwhelmed by the moment that they're in, which is just incredible to me. They just kind of take it, one race at a time, one step at a time, and aren't worried about where they land and the history of high school running, or if they're going to make this meet or that meet, or run worlds or not run worlds or make the Olympics. They really don't put a lot of pressure on themselves and just kind of go out and have fun and do it, which was awesome. Another thing, and it strikes me about all these star runners is that it wasn't, or most of the star runners, it wasn't all running. Juliette, swimmer. Gary, obviously big into basketball. He played soccer. He played baseball along the way. But they weren't singularly focused on running until later in their career. So very cool. Stanford, Virginia has got some really, really good athletes coming to them. They also, Gary's coaches, Coach Paul, and Paul Whitaker coaches Juliette. I wonder if she calls him Coach Paul. I should have asked her that too. And finally, very smart. They obviously nailed my trivia question. So got to give them props there. Again, Stanford and UVA have some good ones coming their way. I didn't get a chance to ask them about this or talk about this, but they also have a common thread that they were both Penn Relays mile champions this year. The high school mile champion and for the boys race was Gary and Juliette. I think Gary ran 4:01 at Penn and Juliette ran 4:41 and won that high school race. So Juliette may be she may be a miler as well. All right. Thanks again to everybody who helped make this interview happen, from Paul Whitaker, Alton McKenzie, Tim Fahey, Brendan Fahey, and of course, Julie Culley for connecting me with them. Great interview. Today, it's Juliette Whitaker, Gary Martin. Make sure you're following these kids' careers because they got big things in front of them. All right, episode 273 in the books. Thanks to you, the audience. Julie will be back next week. We got another exciting show. All right, episode 273 in the books. I'm Chris Farley. This is Space the Nation. We'll see you next time.
When you climb